And please don't say anything else now because I'm going to start recording.
What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Welcome, everybody, to the awakening world. And wow, do we have an incredible weekend planned. It's really almost embarrassing how many amazing people we need to balance because we've got so many wonderful people who are going to be sharing their wisdom and their experiences. And of course, it's all about making contact, the Making Contact update. And I'm really grateful as my collaborative partner and co host for the entire weekend. Here is my old friend, Alan Steinfeld.
Thank you, Scott. It is amazing. We've known each other for 33 years. We met, it was a working relationship then in Hawaii, and just our paths just kind of wind like that through this huge family. And here we are again. I'm really honored you asked me to be a part of this and to coordinate this, because this is something I wrote the book about, making contact, because it is our time. It is a time for the planet. And it's a time that we wake up to who we really are. Making contact is as much about what's out there as it is about us evolving as a human race. And so I'm passionate about this. There's a lot of old friends who I've discussed this with a lot. You know, Jody, I've known for 40 years, and Jean and John are my new friends. And of course, Connie is everywhere, and lots of people are just here, Felicia. And so this is our community. We're building a worldwide community because we are the ones we've been waiting for, as you always say at your show. And this is our time to come forward and value our experiences. So the next 3 days, starting tonight is focused on disclosure and whatever that means personally to people. Tomorrow, we're talking about how these beings are interfacing with us. It's called integration. So Saturday night, which was Saturday Night Alive, which is now the Awakened World Saturday, is going to talk more about the integration of these beings with our consciousness. We have JJ Hertalk on that show. We have Elizabeth Satoris. Who else is on Saturday there, Scott?
Wonderful people.
And
You
then,
know what? I'd like to introduce who's with us now,
okay.
if I may.
And then Sunday, I just want to say we do transmutation where we take it all and we realize how our society is evolving into this global galactic oneness. So yeah, that's a little introduction to this weekend.
Thank you. And as you can see from Alan's excitement, and I can't even keep track of everybody who's going to be on tomorrow night. We've got planned. Fortunately, your co-hosts are not just two white baby boomers. We have my wonderful ongoing co-host on Friday nights, the millennial, that magical millennial to keep us all honest. Trish is with us tonight. Hey, Trish.
That is true. That's what I do. I keep you all honest.
She does. She keeps me on my toes, and
I'm
she,
excited to be here with everyone tonight, and I'm so excited how just like beautiful these humans are. Like really give them a good listen and really let them into your heart. They're wonderful.
yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of fun because we bring on old friends. Alan's a very old friend of mine. We've got Celestine Star, who we to see. John Martin is a new friend. And then we've got Whitley Strieber. So it's going to be a really full evening. So, and then we have got even video segments from Elizabeth April and Marina Seren. So it's going to be powerful. We're going to start by playing a video that was created by John Martin. And John's with us live, and so we'll chat. And John is here. I'll bring him on right there. There he is. Hey, John.
Hey, Scott.
And John is somebody that I actually met through these shows. Was it Mark Sims who first brought you on? I don't.
Yes, Mark's a lovely friend. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was through Mark. We love Mark.
We do. Absolutely.
All hail blessings to Mark. We love Mark very much. Anyway, John has had a remarkable series of experiences. So he's put together kind of John's greatest hits of his encounters from really pretty much your own backyard, right, John?
Yeah, it's a daily practice, Scott. I go out every night and we have an agreement to meet. And these beautiful energies from around the universe come in, various kinds, and the energy is very beautiful. And I play my music in my mind to them, and they send me lovely messages. The last message I got was embrace abundance.
Oh,
I thought that was a beautiful.
Connie, we're getting thumbs up from Connie and our friends on that one.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's take a look at this beautiful video because it's a great way to get us started. And then we'll hear from Celestine live, Whitley live, and continue the show. Here we go. Oh, so beautiful. So absolutely beautiful, John.
Thank you.
Hey, John, do you get communications when you are seeing and videotaping those lights?
I do, Alan, very often. Sometimes it's just love impressions, but many times they'll give me just small indications of, like when they said embrace abundance. It just literally forms in my mind, just kind of unbeckoned. And it's just been an amazing series of events. And, if I go out after this, they'll be there waiting for me tonight, too. So it's just, and we all can do it. It's just a matter of just making the time each day and being open to the experience and send out love. I'm a classically trained guitarist, so I've been playing guitar for 50 years. And so I use my music. I actually did an experiment. I went on my deck about 5 years ago and started playing guitar and projecting into the universe, and the craft just started coming in immediately. A purple plasma craft with a pink ring around the bottom third of the bell came over my home. I had a large cross and crescent shaped craft that I told Scott earlier they were the size of office buildings that came over my home. And I found out later they're crop circles that were laid out just a few months prior to that have that same shape. So, and they make these beautiful clouds like the heart-shaped cloud at the end of the video. They've done that for me many times. And so it's just a loving energy that we share.
It's absolutely beautiful, John, and that's the whole point. It's a loving energy, and the way you talk to them, it's so beautiful. I want to welcome everybody. We've got 65 people in our Zoom room, and I want to welcome those watching on Facebook because I see a lot of people on Unify. We're already, of course, getting a lot of comments from our Love Coach Academy and Unify. I also want to thank the Sign Network that a lot of you are watching us that way. And come on into our Zoom room. We're going to be here for a couple of hours. We've got an amazing show planned. So you can still come into our Zoom room. It's really easy. Just go to globalpeacetribe.com and register. Once you register, you're going to get the links for all 3 of our shows, Friday nights, Saturday nights, and Sunday mornings, all the way through till April 1st. And every weekend, we do amazing work on different themes and topics. So please come on in and join us. And we're going to do our best to keep track of the questions. We'll try and answer some questions in the chat box with people. We have a very active chat box, and we'll do some questions and answers at the end of the show. We're going to bring Whitley Strieber on in a moment, but before that, I want to turn it over to my co-host and my partner here, Trish, just to get some of your thoughts about what we just saw with John and about the topic in general.
Oh, John, I just love your voice. I really do think that you could just like reverberate meditations throughout the world and throughout the cosmos. That's how I love you.
I love you too, Trish, and thank you for that. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be here among so many high vibrational beings. And that's where we're going. We all are ascending as we do this work together. And it's a great honor for me to be here tonight. So I thank all of you for the opportunity.
Thank you. And we're gonna hear more from John, including we're gonna close this show out with some actual live guitar from John. And John, we're certainly going to want your comments on some of the video and some of the conversation, and we'll be having a lot of conversation. But I'm going to turn back over to my other co-host, Alan, to introduce an absolute legend in this industry. So take it away, Alan.
True. When Whitley Strieber wrote his book, Communion, it was like a crack in the consciousness of humanity. He gave us the image of the little gray. It's right there on the cover of Communion. And it ignited a storm in a sense that we're still riding out. The legacy of what there's right there.
There it is.
That is the actual painting, the original painting done for the cover. Wow. Thank you, Whitley. And that was Whitley describing to the artist exactly what he saw. But the other amazing thing is once that book came out in the late 80s, Whitley and his wife, Anne, got 200,000 letters from around the world saying, oh my God, something like that happened to me. And so there were abductions and contact before that, but this solidified a reality within the consciousness of the human race. So I am really happy. Whitley put everything on the line to write that book, his career and his life and everything. But he's a soldier, a warrior. He came through, and he is the person I look to see, well, what's going on? And one question, Whitley, how do you integrate the love, which we just saw in that beautiful feeling, into some of the people that may not have had such a loving experience, or maybe it's all love? Go ahead, Whitley.
Well, first, I want to thank John for his video. It was really very inspiring and lovely. And John, I want to interview you on my show Dreamland as soon as I can. I think you're in a very special situation. And I might comment that you probably, for your music, probably have one of the biggest audiences that any human being has ever had, because this is a really big universe. a lot of entities are probably listening to your music. Well, that is definitely a sign that we should too. So folks, do listen to his playing at the end of the show.
Thank you, Whitley. It's such an honor.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
such a great inspiration to me. For so many years, I've followed you and your work, and thank you for the kind word and your
Well,
incredible inspiration to so many.
I am now a living legend, and what I'm chiefly worried about is, how is my hair doing?
Look like $1,000,000.
I look okay still, yeah, in the front, but I'm like one of those old West saloons with a great big fake front. You look behind it, and there's nothing there. So, anyway, we have to bring our joy to this. And when Annie, the only one of the few things that the visitors have said to me in sort of clear air, one of them, the one that Anne thought was the most important, was 2 words: have joy. And if it's been in my life one hell of a trajectory, because this was not easy at first, not at all, not for either of us. I mean, we went through hell. I didn't expect this to happen to me. And when it did happen, I couldn't figure it out. And I thought I was going crazy. I thought I was losing my mind. I tried to get Anne to divorce me. And finally, I have a dear friend in New York, Timothy Greenfield Saunders, who's a brilliant photographer. He's taken most of the pictures of me. That picture of Anne behind me, Timothy took that. And so I said to Timothy, look, I've got something really weird to tell you. This is after I'd been to the doctor and gotten every test known to man. And the bottom line, I was just a perfectly healthy guy who was really scared. So I said to Timothy, I told Timothy the story. I said, how am I ever going to tell Anne? And he says, oh, just tell her. She's going to roll with it. And you don't underestimate your wife. Anne will find a way to deal with this. And so I sat Anne down, and we'd actually talked about divorce a couple times, because I was afraid I would become psychotic. And if I did, then she wouldn't be able to ditch me, and she would end up with this crazy man in some institution and a little boy to raise all on her own, and no ability to divorce me. So it was a real hard time. I sat down with her once at our country house one night at our country house. I said, Annie, there's something I have to tell you. And these tears started in her eyes, and she thought, he's going to say that we need to get a divorce. And I told her the story. And she paused for a minute, and she looked at me and she said, oh, thank God. I thought you were going crazy. And we just stared at each other, and we both just burst out laughing. And then I said, well, perhaps I am going crazy. She said, oh, no, Whitley, you're very stand on the ground. You don't see things that aren't there. And after I wrote Communion about a year later, a friend who was a retired state trooper in New York came up to the cabin and said, Whitley, listen, I've got something to tell you. Probably should have told you before, but I was afraid. I saw it happen. And this isn't in any of my books. It may be in one of them, but it's not something I've talked about a lot, because he didn't want me to talk about it. He didn't want me to spread it around. And, it's one thing to talk about it on a show, but another thing entirely to put it in print where it stays kind of forever. But I don't think anyone would identify him anyway. He and his wife were driving home about 2:00 in the morning, the night after Christmas, the night it happened to me. And they saw what looked to them like the Goodyear blimp in a field near our houses. And it was low low in the field. And he thought, well, maybe I better stop and help him, because that shouldn't be there now. And he stopped the car and got out and climbed the barbed wire fence, which is not a, it's not a big, wasn't a big fence in that field. It's probably full of houses now for all I know. But after I lost the cabin, I just vowed I would never go back. It hurt so much. But in any case, he went into the field, and as he walked toward this thing, he could hear someone in it screaming. And he began to run, whereupon lights came on the thing, and it made a growling noise and came toward him. And his wife freaked out in the car, of course, and so did he. And he said, really all I could do was just get back in the car and get the hell out of there. And I think I had left you in there. I think it was you screaming. And I said, listen, I would have left me in there if I'd been in your car, so please don't feel bad about it. But this is a story about what we are struggling with. And, you know, today, Uri Geller announced that he thought that there's going to be an alien invasion, as he put it, imminently. And, you know, I've heard that 1,000 times from all kinds of people. Last week, I had Anjali Schultz on my show, who is, Alan knows well, and he helped her set up a press conference on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial back in, I believe, November, saying that she had been in a cave with aliens in the Mojave, and that they wanted to meet human scientists, and we could bring video and stuff in, and that would all happen on December the 21st. And it didn't happen. And of course, she was just excoriated on the internet. But there's more to the story. So if you do listen to my show, Dreamland, which you can find on my website, Unknown Country, listen to last week's show. And we're on a profound journey on that show. It's not like other podcasts at all. Anyway, Uri said that, and he may or may not be right, but eventually somebody's going to be right, because they're very close to us. What John is happening with John means they are very close to us. And why would that be? Well, if you look at what they have done, and there's millions of people, not millions, but hundreds, thousands of people out there who say, well, I have this message from them and I have that message from them. They're pro this politician, against that, whatever. There's two things they've actually done that are communication that we know is real. One is they have spent a lot of time around nuclear weapons sites in Russia and the United States, and possibly elsewhere. A few instances in the UK have been reported too. They have made it clear that they can affect the targeting of those missiles. In other words, they're saying something about the danger of nuclear weapons. And again, for witness after witness, like me and so many others, they have warned about the environment. And we are seeing a terrifying increase in violence that could easily lead to nuclear war. And we are seeing a terrifying decline in the environment. Now, why would they warn us about those things? Well, for one reason. And there can only be one reason. For whatever reason, they want us to survive. Now, is it because they love us or because they need us for something? Well, I think it's both. And I think that when in my book, A New World, I talk about both. Of course, they need us for something. And they also want us to survive. There's a lot of love there. And one day, Annie came out of her office when she was reading all those letters that Alan referred to a moment ago. And she said, Whitley, this has something to do with what we call death. And it turns out that many of the letters were talking about people's dead friends and relatives, as well as the visitors all showing up at the same time. And this happened in our cabin. we would know at the cabin if the visitors were going to show up, because someone would have an encounter with a dead someone who had died that they knew a little while before the visitors came. There was a connection, in other words. We got a call from a man back in those days who was really struggling to find me because there was no internet, and he found me through my agent. And I figured, if he's worked that hard to find me, this is important to him. And I'm easy to reach anyway, as most people know. In any case, he calls me and he says, listen, I want to tell you a story. And this is his story. I was in the living room with my wife night before last. Our old dog was asleep, and suddenly the dog got very nervous and woke up, which is extremely unusual. My wife took him out, and as she was taking him out for a second time, she saw what looked like a fireball go across the sky and disappear behind the trees. And she turned back and said to me, you're going to get a call in a few minutes. I just saw a plane going in on fire. He was in the FAA. And at that moment, their little 7-year-old boy came running downstairs saying, Mommy, Daddy, Mommy, Daddy. Little blue men were in my room, and they had Johnny with them, and he said to tell you he's okay. That was his older brother, who had died in an auto accident a week before. And the man wanted to know, do I have any reason to believe this is true? And I was able to say to him, yes, you do. A lot of people see our dead with the visitors, because for them, there is no barrier between the living and the dead. And for us too, the closer they come to us, the more that barrier will fall. The barrier has fallen between me and Anne. Annie and I meditate and work together every night in the early hours. It's changed recently. It's more like 5 o'clock in the morning, but until very recently, it was at 3. About 6 weeks after she passed away, it had already become obvious, for the reasons I've outlined in Afterlife Revolution, the book we wrote together after Annie passed, that she was still here. She was extremely clever about how she made that known to me, because she would whisper and tell friends to call me and tell me that they had heard her say to call me. And then I was at a William Henry conference in Nashville. He's a lovely guy. If you don't know of him, look up williamhenry.net. And one of the participants came up and said, Mr. Strieber, I just had the strangest thing happen. I heard Anne's voice in my ear say, tell Whitley I can see him when he's in the chair. This had immediate and complete meaning to me. I sit in a chair. I had been doing this since 1969, when Anne and I joined the Gurdjieff Foundation, which is a group of people devoted to the teachings of an Armenian mystic called George Gurdjieff. And we do something called the sensing exercise. And I'd been doing this every night for many years at that point. I'd never known whether it was connected to the visitors or not. But as soon as I heard her say that, I realized, of course, that's why they said we can see a glow. The glow is the attention when it is placed on the body, on the sensation of the body, because the body is the most sacred thing any of us possesses. We forget that very easily. But anyway, after she passed on, am I finished?
No. That's just Trish appreciating the beauty.
Oh, okay. All right.
No, keep going.
I thought you were telling me to go.
No,
Okay,
no.
good. I'll go on then, because I do have a little more to say. Anyway, this has developed into our relationship. And, I'm a human being. I'm still in this heavy old machine of mine, and I do me old at this point in my life. So it's hard to get up at 3:33 or 3 o'clock in the morning every morning. They I probably Annie and maybe others, I don't know, help me in various ways. You'll hear something like a school bell ringing in the living room. They'll blow in my face. Sometimes someone will kiss me, a very dry little kiss on the lips, or a weight will come down on my chest or my lower body, and this wonderful energy comes in, and you can do anything when you get that energy, and I get it a lot. There's not a day passes that energy doesn't come into me. Anyway, this particular night, I was real beat. And for the only time I have ever had any proof of the way this works happened on that night. It was November the 9th of last year at 3:33 in the morning. And I'd like to, if I can, Scott, share my screen and show a video of this.
Be wonderful.
Okay. All right, here we go. All right, now this is my bedroom. The Hulk you see in the bed is obviously this Hulk that's talking now. Up here on the night table is the phone, and behind it my glasses, and there's a light. The phone is on the edge of the table, but not so close to the edge that it's just going to arbitrarily fall off. Watch what happens. Now, what you're watching is me peacefully sleeping, and it doesn't show, the time's not stamped on this, but it is stamped on other versions of this. It's 3:33 in the morning, which was a time Anne thought was very important. And I'll tell you in a minute why she wakes me up at this time. Now watch the phone. Watch it carefully. It's right here.
Yeah.
And you're going to see something interesting happen. An actual poltergeist event filmed, only I know the poltergeist very well. She's my dearest friend and my lover.
Oh.
Here we go. Just a second.
Oh my Lord.
There it goes. There he is. He's waked up. He's figuring out what the heck. And then he realizes it's time, gets out of bed, and he gets himself going back out to that chair in the living room.
Wow.
And that's my life.
Hey, could you show that again? Because I think I missed what you're showing there.
The phone.
I knew you'd miss it, Alan. I know you very
thanks.
well.
Thanks.
Okay, we're going to just show the moment when it falls off again. Watch closely, Alan, and everybody who didn't see it.
Okay.
There it is.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Okay, good. I'm glad you asked, because I'm sure a lot of people missed it.
I love your reaction. It's like, what? Huh? Oh,
Yeah,
right.
right.
Time to wake up.
I'm reacting.
Oh my God, what a beautiful, beautiful story.
That was at 3:33, huh?
Yes, and that was the time. Anne always emphasized that time.
Well, we were at a conference once, Whitley, and you said Anne just flew into the bedroom as that white moth. You remember? I forgot.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Anne's avatar. Anne is the only dead person I know of who created an avatar before she died. The avatar is the white moth. And she began in January of 2015 to make me memorize a certain poem called Song of the Wandering Aengus. And I didn't know why, but and she said after a couple of days, "Have you memorized it yet?" And I said, "What poem?" "Oh yeah, no, I didn't." And she started crying. And I realized, boy, this is important. I don't know why, but I'm memorizing that poem, and I memorized it. And there are lines in it. These
you want
lines.
to finish your talk by telling us that poem? I mean,
do you want me to? Okay,
yeah,
sure. I'll recite the whole poem.
By William Yeats.
I went out to the hazelwood because a fire was in my head, and cut and peeled a hazel wand, and hooked a berry to a thread. When white moths were on the wing, and the moth-like stars were flickering out, I dropped the berry in a stream and caught a little silver trout. When I put it on the floor, and went to blow the fire aflame, something rustled on the floor, and someone called me by my name. It had become a glimmering girl with apple blossom in her hair, who called me by my name and faded through the brightening air. Though I am old with wandering in hollow lands and hilly lands, I will find where she is gone and kiss her lips and take her hands and walk in long dappled grass and pluck till time and times are done the silver apples of the moon, the golden apples of the sun. And you can see the white moths in that poem, when white moths were on the wing. And then I realized after the white moths started to show up that Annie has made the white moth her avatar. And her favorite short story of mine is about a woman discovering that she's passed away, that she's dead, and it's called The White Moths.
Wow.
So Anne was a master of the first order, but a hidden master. And she leaves us with this.
Beautiful.
Whitney, I want to read a couple comments that have come to you from our audience, and please stick around. We want to hear from Celestine, and then we want to dialogue with you a little bit. But there's a few comments. Heather on Unify Facebook writes, "Yes, my dead fiance came to comfort me during their first direct contact visitation," talking about her first experience with the visitors. Carlette wants to encourage you that you look great and not to worry. So thank you, Carlette, passing that on. And then in our chat box here, there's a few messages that I wanted to read. George Noble, one of our regulars, writes, "Whitney, I also see many friends, relatives who have passed over, and I kept wondering why. So thank you for your comment. Those thoughts have really helped me with this." Noelle is remembering the story about when she came to the bedroom. George Noble also writes, "Sat Guru tells us that 3:33 is a special time also."
Yes.
So that's interesting. Jeffrey Colebrook writes, "Remember, we are all one and part of the Levolution, and the universe supports our Levolution unification, and that supports us." Finally, from Connie, another one of our wonderful guests, she writes, "They want us to survive because all of creation is awaiting the love in the human heart that will be released when we open our hearts. Our job of transmuting fear, separation, and scarcity is very important for the evolution of consciousness, and consciousness is all." Would you agree with that comment, Whitley?
Well, I don't think we know enough to be certain that it's right, but I certainly suspect that it is.
Yeah, I just want to say what Whitley brought out here is showing us the scope and complexity of the phenomena we're dealing with. It is not just about visitors from another planet. It's about pulling out the human heart and becoming amazed at creation. We are becoming mystics as a human race, and Whitley's transformation is about that mystical awareness, I would say. I mean, you know, that's
well, it's a transformation, all right. I went from being a rather cynical former Catholic to being what I am now, which is a very different ball of wax.
Yeah.
And also the poem, if you're not looking at the chat, is The Wandering Angus by William Butler Yeats, who was also quite a mystic himself. And he would...
That hour, by the way, is known as Brahma Muhurta time. It's the time of learning, not just 3:33, but approximately an hour and 36 minutes before sunrise. And I've discovered that the time that they will wake me up kind of works that way. It's usually about an hour and a half before sunrise. So it can be as early as 3 and as late as, later in the winter, which it is now. But number is very important. A number is critical. The Christian esotericism and the mysteries, the ancient mysteries of Eleusis that preceded Christian esotericism believed that number was very important, and to understand number was to communicate with God. Now, that all comes from Pythagoras, from way back, and from before him, the ancient Egyptians. And Annie used to say, and she used to drive me crazy when she would say this, well, God's a mathematical formula. I said, but I think of God as being love. She said, well, that too, but you have to understand math if you're going to hope to understand God. And she did, but I didn't. So it's a little frustrating.
Someday we'll have to compare stories about beloved wives who passed before us because they were further advanced.
And beloved husbands too, because that happens as well.
Yeah. I want to bring on our other live guest, but please stay with us. But I don't want to keep Celestine waiting any longer, because we really are blessed to also have with us Celestine Star. She's a longtime friend of myself. Like Alan, I've known her for a long, long time. And Celestine has been involved personally in this experience since she was a little girl. And her whole life has been a big part of exploring, experiencing, and helping us to understand. So, Celestine, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
I just want to say one thing, Scott, because it connects to what Celestine's saying. What Whitley's saying about number is about frequency and vibration. And that's really where Celestine tunes into this phenomenon as a vibrational understanding from what I know of your work. So yes, Celestine, it's all yours.
All right. Well, first of all, let me just bow. I want to bow deeply to you, Whitney. I totally adore you. I love you, respect you. I have followed your work since your publication, and I have been held tightly in the inner realms, hidden from humanity. And it's just recently that I've been able to come out and speak. So I just want to honor your work. I want to say that my mother, before she passed, she was metaphysical. I was raised metaphysical. So I was raised to live in both this dimension and the other dimension. And she said, I will be a robin. And that I love the word avatar, that you said Anne made herself an avatar, but I pass this on to many people to have a symbol, because that is the way the spirit speaks in symbolism when you're on the other side. There's a lot of translation, just as John said, oh, they send me the love energy and maybe a few words, but mostly, the symbolism is important. So I have robins walk with me in the snow where they're not anywhere, and I know that it is her. If I look in a magazine and see it, I know she's trying to talk to me. So I totally honor that. I want to speak into a few things that you impressed upon me as you were speaking. And I want to say that you become a sensitive. You've opened that part of yourself. And I want to say that all of humanity is being opened, not just because the interstellar people are close to us, but rather we are moving physically as an Earth. Our electromagnetic field is down, the weakening of the Earth, of the sun, and its electromagnetic pulse. And we're taking in more gamma rays and neutron rays. So we're literally being elevated in our ability to carry energy. So that's scientifically being proven. This is a part of dissension work where people get headaches or their bodies are adjusting to, I know my body had to adjust to being able to have more energies. So part of my working is to do Skywatch, and a lot of people come out at the beginning, and Skywatching is involving, for me, working with those people, those interstellar ultra terrestrials that, just like John, come out and are part, show themselves as their lives. They show their lives to humanity. And from my experience, which started, I could say, back in 1960, when our government decided to, set off about 10 atomic bombs at one time and actually rip the sky in two. Literally, we have to take some responsibility for the situation that we're in right now. 7 years old, watching the sky torn in two with all the adults wondering what's going on. You see black on one side and, regular sky on the other. This is when the big, mile-long spaceships appeared, and you'd be driving on the freeway, they'd stop, everybody get out, we'd look, oh, that must be government. Well, it wasn't government, the saucer-shaped long ones. And eventually our family, because my stepfather decided to follow one, it landed and we all ended up in this beautiful starship. Now, because I was metaphysical, we were trained to understand there was other energies, other beings. You could see the forces, you work with the nature forces. I had a schooling that, you were not privy to, but I want to say that it helped me so that when I was in the examining room with my family, my brother screaming and my mother just really upset, and my stepfather, who called himself the Martian, I was able to be calm and have a communication with a tall gray who was examining. They're very curious because we were giving our children DDT, cocaine in our drinks, opiates in our cough syrups. We were a mess already. And that was like the late 50s going into the 60s. They were concerned that we were going to blow up our own planet. So for me, the star people who stationed themselves over these bases with the nuclear, they allowed us to understand they are not going to let us push the button. And there's many, my brother was a part of the Concord's weapons station, and he spoke about that. They would just fly over and shut everything down electrical for days. And one time, one of the nuclear bombs actually came unloose, he was in charge of, and he said it never hit the ground. He went into white light. When he came to, the nuclear weapon was back, and him and his, the person he was working with both looked at each other and knew that they had been replaced in time. So what I do know is they never left. They've been a part of this earth, and I'm going to say interstellar. I'm going to say ultra terrestrials. When I speak of aliens, we're talking about those connected to the government. But, they never left. They have been a part of the development and the unfoldment of this earth since the beginning. There are groupings that come for resources. There are groupings that come to make colonies. And it's, there was a separation 10,500 years ago. And so that's why the disappearance and the pulling back and the cloud covers and all these things. But because of our timing now, they are allowed to show themselves. Because the energy field is coming so high and vibrant, we are interfacing with where they are, because most of the ones that I know who I work with, they tell me that, they live in septicles, they live in dimensional fields just adjacent to this one. And because our energy field is rising, then there is the dropping of the veil. And so prepare ourselves, yes. I think we wanted to talk about disclosure a little bit. And so I'd like to do that. Would that work, Alan?
Yeah, definitely. No, talk about in terms of how it's going to affect us and what your insights about that evolution for the collective consciousness is.
So for our grouping, the Galactic Earth Council, which, you know, I started way back in the 80s, actually working with people, working with the Galactic Star Federation on a physical basis, also interdimensional, because I'm a sensitive, because I'm an open person. I had a near-death experience and went through the light and met luminous beings. I've already been indoctrinated so they could trust me. Also, I'm sensitive enough to not only sense those that have passed over, but also those of illumination. So what's happening is I work with people from the 80s distinctly with contact and taking people to the gateways. Most people are not ready. I've learned since with the star, I'm going to go back to the sky watches. If you do not have the synapses in your brain system or your programming, you will not see them. Everyone who has their synapses open in Stargate will be looking like John. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. I see you. I see you. And other people will not see them. So part of our Stargate was when we formed the Galactic Earth Council in 2010, was to work with the Galactic Star Federation. They would show us the technologies. They would come out in holograms with one wing and two wings and split up into fours and come back. They would draw the outline of San Francisco, where we live, in a cloud simultaneously. They would use nature in its beautiful glory. And eventually, those who had not had an understanding would say, that's not a plane. And when they were able to bring that into their system, the synapses would open and then the glory would begin. So I've had really high level experiences with these beautiful beings, a high spiritual council, which we will speak about disclosure and that level. And then I've also been the wife of a, he was in charge, head of security for Edwards Air Force Base. Now, I married him in 1972, Ernest Robert Hunt, and we traveled and to places where there was high alert for nuclear weapons and such. But what I learned when I was with him, especially at Edwards, where they had off-planet situations going on, 4,500 acres of underground base there. It was, you know, it's command, it's the command central. What I learned is that at all cost, they must keep the veil dropped for humanity. There's a lot going on here. You know, I want to go back to how they're rolling this, you know, keeping humanity abreast, but at the same time, feeling that they need to protect us in some ways. And also there's money in these ways. And, you know, if we're looking for disclosure, having them pull the golden ring and let the veil open, you're probably not going to get it from the government, because the government is not in charge when this is going to happen or who will do the unveiling. Yeah.
But so how can people open those synapses of perception to start to make contact? How do you assist people in doing that?
I assist people in working with a commander. I have Commander Tanador, you know, and he works with me. In the early days, it was different commanders of the fleets that would come. They would just ride with me and telepathically talk to me about, for 28 days, they're on the moon cycle, about what is the theme? What are we looking at? So I presented my Sky Watches as a Native American council circle. And the first circle is prayers to the mother. The second is initiating who's in the circle. And the third is the theme of what is presented. Sometimes as we are one, you know, I'll give an example. We are one. They want us to understand we are galactic consciousness in a biological unit. So they would do demonstrations over and over again for our grouping until everyone basically got it. If they understood that there was some high technology in front of them, but the mantra is glory in the light of the radiant one, because they move from the place of the radiant one. And so this grouping was very clear that they come from the place of love and evolution for humanity, as opposed to, say, those on Edwards, who would love to have this atmosphere filled with radiation so they could step out. You know, you have those that are there. They're definitely there, but they are not as many and not able to take control of the earth. They can give power to our governments who are running us off the cliff because they believe they're going to have control. Whereas these people I'm working with are of the highest. And so the high spiritual council, they would come with their ships. Most of their ships are so amazing. They have the ones with the markings on it. And believe me, when they show up, you know, high spiritual council is present. They come low. We don't need the goggles. And so slowly our grouping over the 11 years, you know, it takes about 3 times out, then you really have your synapses open and you're ready to go. But also they gave me an encoded transmission, which is to guide people back to the first time you came to Earth. There's nothing like understanding, why are you even here? And so we journey back using your primal awareness, that part of you that interfaces with your creator, to take you back to the first time, to reclaim the data, reclaim the information of who you are, your grouping. Did you travel alone? Did you come in a starship? Were you dropped off? Did you phase in? And then understanding your contracts, agreements, and then going back to where you came from. And when you go back to where you came from, you may go into pure light, you may go into sound, you may be a grouping on a planet. It's so individual. And I have done people from Area 51, I've done pilots, I've done, you know, people who are very astute researchers, children, mothers, you know, every level, meditators, and each person gets it and they hold it and it's theirs. And so once you have an understanding of you as coming here from a different place of beingness and your contracts, do you want to keep them, let them go? You also connect to the humanness of self. So you have your...
No, go ahead, finish that.
And yeah, I'll just finish that for you. So if a person is aware of their initiatory, their true nature, it is the state of their divinity. And most of them are coming in here for high purposes. And some live through the wars, some live through the battles between the different colonies. You know, at first no one lived in the greening areas, they call it. They lived in septicles or interdimensional places of being, like the Gopi Desert, Shambhala, the halls of Amente. They still do. They still live there. They never left. Forget about it. And so you look at the divinity, the human, and then the divine, the creator. And you have the Holy Trinity. And you have the Philosopher's Stone, of which all things can be. So I've spent the last, 8 years, doing thousands of people, awakening them. And I could tell you, it really is the synapses. It is the ability to become sensitive. And when you do, you can talk to those on the other side. And as the energies raise, people are starting to have that effect anyway. The right and the left side of the brain are starting to function together. So what were you going to ask, Alan?
Oh, beautiful. It's beautiful. Just a quick question, then maybe Whitley or Trish or Scott can jump in. But it seems like part of your experience has been a similar trajectory from Whitley, going from the hardcore interactions to this beautiful state of love and openness and transcendence. Would you say that's true? on your?
Never been really hardcore. I mean, I understood when they explained to me they were worried about humanity because we were not taking care. I wasn't. My brother was drawing this the grays for so long, but you know, it didn't take long. 1986, I opened the Temple of Light, and eventually, you know, they really started appearing to me and teaching me and immortals and all that. But yeah, I've had the pleasure. The hard pleasure was being with Ernest and, you know, all of the hush hush. And I'm looking at disclosure through the years. I call it the rainbow fairy tale, where, you know, they put out the War of the Worlds. We've got Day the Earth Stood Still. We've got Superman. We know that Roddenberry was hanging out with the government doing experiments on transmediumship, of which I did some transmediumship for about 15 years with the councils and working with them. But the government did it with mediums and with the Council of Nine. So they've had this information, and out of it, they gave permission to Roddenberry to do Star Trek. Okay, so they're rolling this stuff out just how they need it to roll out. And but the nature of who they are, they will never tell you the full truth. And this is what Ernest said. You know, if you're looking for your government who's not in control of what this disclosure is going to happen, and if they say to you something, they're not going to tell you the full truth. It just is not going to happen. Number two, the only way they can roll this out is an invasion, which we know that's not true, because I'm working directly with the High Spiritual Council, the Star Confederation, and the Galactic Star Federation. And they're like, we're not interested in that. We're interested in helping you take care of your Earth. Your magnetic field is going down. You cannot do it on your own. We're waiting. They're waiting. If our governments can't pull the veil back and say, look, we need your help. Step forward. Let's be real about it. Be humble. And if they can't do that, then we have to do it on our own and to acknowledge. And I'm here to say that it's real. We are not alone. And Whitney can say that too. So that's what I would say.
Thank you, Celestine. We're definitely going to have more time for you and Whitley to comment and answer some questions. And really,
Yeah. I try to keep it down in time, but you know,
you've had such a remarkable life. And I felt bad coming in and
no, that's good. I'm glad you did. Yeah.
I'm gonna bring my teaching partner and Friday night partner Trish on for a moment, and also I'm gonna bring on Whitley and John and Alan and just go into a little roundtable discussion for a few minutes, and then we're gonna take a look at some videos of Marina and Elizabeth. Trish, what comes up for you so far tonight?
Oh, you all are in for it. I'm so sorry. I've been really looking into history and the history of religion that dates back 400 BC or 4000 BC. And what I'm as I'm listening to your stories and I'm kind of considering what I've been thinking about and learning is that most beings come from a place of love, and that it's aspects of supremacy that want to keep them away from us, whoever them is, they other. And I was just thinking about how your experience, John and Whitley and Celestine, of these like beautiful love beings actually just being like, hey, like we're wanting to protect you, and we're like whispering in your ear, and how like in this sense of disclosure as things are starting to shift, we'll have more contact, and we're having more connection, and we're having more understanding. And as we shift as a peoples, that we're starting to be able to hear them or to see them or to be like to access that information. So I don't know if that exactly made sense, but I'm just saying like, oh yeah, like this is where we're heading in our evolution, and this is how we do it, is we do it with love, and we sing to them and we say hi, and then we show up in the night and we wait.
Oh my gosh, we scream to them. Everybody's screaming. Yeah.
I got a little note from Whitley that he actually needs to leave soon. So I want to ask a question and give Whitley a chance to answer it first, and then we'll, and also Whitley, let us know, and you can screen share about your radio show because I want people to know how they can find it. So if you could either put that in the chat box or go ahead and screen share it before you leave.
I don't know how to screen share it. It's a podcast. It's called Dreamland, and the place to find it is on my website. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, I'll pull your website up, and then you can show people how to do that. So just pop your website in the chat. I'll pull it up, screen share your
Okay,
website.
I popped it into the chat, I think.
Unknown Country. That's right, unknowncountry.com. I remember that from
Yeah.
before. While I'm pulling that up, I'm going to put the spotlight on you, Whitley, to be the first person to answer this question. So obviously, if somebody were to come to Earth and land in China, their experience of human beings would be radically different than Eskimos or Americans or Europeans or whatever. Just as there are 8 billion human beings and all these different cultures and races, likewise, I would imagine, or I believe, that there are multiple races interacting with our planet. And we've heard stories tonight of beautiful connection, of difficult connection. So the question is, what would you like to share with us about your understanding of the different races of extraterrestrials and how do they interact with each other in relation to our planet?
Oh, well, me personally, I can only talk about what I've experienced.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know if there are extraterrestrials. I wouldn't say that I could be sure of that. I mean, I'm not arguing against it because I think it'd be very hard to argue against it. But I'm just saying that I've never been with them in a situation which would convince me that they were definitely extraterrestrials. Therefore, I don't know what they are. Now, one thing about disclosure that we must never forget is it's really up to them, isn't it? I mean, we saw John's videos. They could do much more than that if they wished, but they don't. That means that the secrecy is partly their policy too. And I think there's a lot of good reasons for it. I go into that a lot in A New World, in my book, A New World. One of the reasons is something called cultural colonization. And if not people like us who are very advanced in this relationship, but just ordinary people all over the world in their billions were suddenly to come into contact, what would happen to them is essentially what happened to indigenous peoples all over the world when Europeans showed up with their superior technology. And not even the Europeans were often very hostile and exploitative, but even when they weren't, suddenly the indigenous people saw all of these beautiful ships and wonderful implements, knives made of metal and all kinds of things. And they've just abandoned their own culture. And they were only interested now in what could they get from the Europeans. Mm. And one of the surest signs that our visitors are very profoundly on our side is the secrecy, because they will not allow that to happen to us. They won't let us be disempowered. They want us to find our own way. And that's what people like us are about. Mm. We're about helping to shine the light ahead, because in front of us, there's just the future. Behind us is everybody else. Mm. So we got to shine our light ahead. We mustn't hide it under a bushel, as it says in the Bible. And unfortunately, I have a lot. This apartment is called the Unquiet Flat by my friends, and you saw why a little earlier. There's a lot of activity in here, and with it comes contact, physical contact, usually very brief, but it causes me to become allergic, and I'm in a very big allergy state now. Years ago, there was an allergist who would help me, but that program is long gone, and I'm not part of it anyway. And the visitors, there's a little mark on my leg that the visitors will come and the graze and put a little something in there from time to time, and that will tamp down the allergies. They haven't done that in a long time, so I'm quite tired.
Whitley, we will let you go. I'm just bringing up your website, unknowncountry.com. Unknowncountry.com. Definitely join his community. So click for his books, podcasts, which we were just talking about. He's got amazing books. I would love to, I mean, I really want to just do a full hour and a half with you. And
That would be
I love
lovely.
he's got the latest news. And isn't it cool about the James Webb Telescope? I've been tracking that, and I love reading about what's going on with our own space exploration. It's very, very cool. And also another article I had seen that they just discovered that modern humans are far, far older than we thought. Um, so he's got really interesting news here. Whitley, thank you so much for your generosity of putting this together.
Oh,
Um,
it's been here since 1998, if you can believe it,
oh my
and
God.
started it back then. And I'm glad people usually don't promote it in any way when I'm on a show, very rarely,
Oh,
except, just a casual mention. But it's a truly wonderful site. And another thing about it is it's a social media site that doesn't track you. and it has got lovely people on it. People very much like most of us.
yeah, I'm seeing a lot of my friends there. And yes, I will send you a personal invitation. Let's do just just a conversation with you where we can go really deep. And I
Thank you. And
would love to share.
Celestine and John, it was so nice to hear both of you. And I think you're doing wonderful things.
Thank you, Whitney, and I just
Yeah.
adore you and your wisdom, and I'd love to have a deep conversation with you. And
Well, one day I've got a book I've got to finish.
of
That's
course,
the main thing right now.
both
Whitley's also going to be at the Conscious Life Expo this coming weekend, February 4th to the 6th, LAX Hilton. You can find him live there giving lectures, panels. So
yeah,
thank
who
you for
knows?
being here with us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for
Whitley,
having me.
So much for your time, Whitley.
Bye-bye.
Whitley, I just wanted to say it's been such a great pleasure to meet you today, and the music that I played on the video is Peace to All that was given to me by the intelligences when I was in meditation, and that song just kind of just made itself. And so
It's a lovely
I thank you
piece.
for all your great work.
Well, thank you, John, for all yours. Goodbye, all.
Bye-bye,
Bye.
Whitley. Thank you.
Care.
Alan, I think this would be a good time for us to show the Marina segment.
Yeah. I just want to add to what you asked everyone what they got from that. What I'm getting, and I didn't expect from this show, is that this humanity, this core humanity, is really about this experience, this phenomena.
Yeah.
And we've been done a disservice not to know who we really are as human beings by, our media, our education, our politics, our religions have put us in these boxes. And what Celestine and Whitley and John and all of us are sharing is that we are infinite beings. There's so much more to humanity. And maybe it takes these visitors to wake us up to who we really are. And this person that Scott just mentioned, Marina Seren, is in a way one of those visitors. You want to say something about Marina, Scott?
Yeah. Alan and I have been in this world a long time, this UFO world. And I was producing television about this stuff 30 years ago. And I've been around the block. I've interviewed 8 former astronauts, 30 former military officials. I've produced over 100 nationally broadcast television segments about UFO stuff or things related. And you're about to meet a woman who is absolutely, positively a hybrid. It's like the next level of our understanding. She's delightful. I've interviewed her a couple times now. Alan has spent much more time with her. And she's 21 years old, extremely intelligent, extremely loving. And as you look and listen to her, it becomes really clear. It's kind of like, imagine if you've only heard about black people. You've heard that, oh, well, there's, you grew up in a white skinned community and you've heard about black people, but then you actually finally meet your first person who's genuinely of African descent and looks the part, right? That's what you're about to experience with this woman. You're about to see someone who absolutely is a hybrid.
Yeah.
And if she talks about her being a hybrid and what that means, it's remarkable. It's actually kind of cute because in this particular segment, you're going to see she's 21 years old. And she talks about kind of breaking away from them, just like most 21-year-olds are dealing with breaking away from their family, right? Only her family happens to include an extraterrestrial parenting. So that's. I'll start with that and turn back over to Alan.
Right. And she's from Spain. She grew up in Spain and she learned English on her own because she knew she had a message to deliver to the wider world. So I spent, lots of time interviewing her because when I saw her, like Scott said, I knew she had something. I knew she had a message. I knew, and it's in its early development. So we're like seeing like a young Judy Garland here about to come on stage, onto the world stage. That's how I feel. She has a lot to offer and she's developing these skills. So I'm just going to share this screen and get the first level. And I asked her because I thought this program was going to be more about disclosure and wait, I'm just looking for this.
Well, you do that. Somebody's asking, what is a hybrid? So a hybrid is someone who, in this case, actually part of her DNA makeup, part of her actual physical chemistry is part human and part extraterrestrial.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. You see this on your screen, Scott?
We sure do. Go ahead and play.
Okay. This was coming from a previous interview I did where she was trying to figure out how to take back her power from some of the beings that wanted her to do certain things. And I asked her also about disclosure because that was one of the themes of the show. We need disclosure, full on disclosure, so we as a human race can decide the agendas we want as an evolutionary species.
Yes.
Right?
100%.
Instead of the government or those people that may have some inside connection for some service to self reason that want to control agendas. So just say a little bit more about the power of disclosure.
I agree with that. Disclosure is not just the idea of releasing documents, like the government releasing documents and humanity saying, oh, okay, they're right, the big, woo, like we're not alone in this universe, there's more. I think that's not the only process, of course, to be a shift or to be integrated, as a species. Of course, this part of, galactic interrelationships, and the idea of validating ourselves, loving ourselves enough to not give our power away to any ET or any agenda, to have our ideas and clear, so that we know where we want to give our power. I mean, not our power, sorry, our focus, our energy, our creative energy, so that we make sure that we have the most positive experience possible for us, in this exploration of the reconnection with the cosmos, with the multidimensional beings out there.
Exactly. You represent for me and maybe other be a pivotal point in the human race where we could open up this multidimensional awareness and bring it back into a human sense of who we really are so we can move into a new cohesive future. So
yes. So as a conclusion, my final conclusion, I think you will say that that they are warned personally, for these interactions that are negatively ended with me. So it's a warn for me and from many more that they cannot do this. on my personal side, and that yes, it was negative experience, but I learned, there is a point in this. I learned something big,
Mhm.
so it was a great lesson, and I appreciate it. But I think the hybrids are great beings, like great species. They're my family. I am a hybridized individual, so I feel familiarity from them. But just because I love that connection, like love the message that they have in general, like their teachings, their energy, their civilizations, etc., it doesn't mean that I prefer like the narrative that they prefer for themselves. So I think, contact with them is something that I align with.
Right. So she was going through a little bit of hard time. She felt some of these hybrids wanted her to do things that she as a human didn't want to do. And she stood up to them and she called back her power and say, no, this is my decision. So that's sort of that rebellious stage you're saying, but in a way of holding your power too, right?
Yeah. I want to bring Trish in and get Trish's response to Marina.
Oh, she sounds very sweet, and I'm very excited to someday meet her, Scott, wink, wink. And and I would love to be able to sit with her and really hear from her experience on this planet, and hear her experience of living bi-worldly, you could say. I'm just going to make words up today. But really, really just like to sit in with this person, to be in a space with, well, all of you.
Yeah. Well, as Trish was foreshadowing, I'll just kind of let people know, Alan and I are talking to Marina about bringing her to the United States. She's never been here
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about setting up a tour for her in May and June. Sedona, Bay Area, Southern California, and then Alan will sponsor her through the East Coast a little bit. So
I want to say I have hours of video with Marina on my YouTube channel, because I just said this woman is in her early development stage and she has so much to share, and she's also channeling these beings. So you can go to New Realities on YouTube, youtube.com/New Realities. I'll put some of that in the chat. But really, Scott, I'm glad you felt the same way I did. Like, oh my God, this is someone who's different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And while we're talking about that, everybody, definitely make sure you go and subscribe to both Alan's YouTube channel and the Global Peace Tribe channel. So we'll put those into the chat box and I'll bring them up a little bit later. But Alan, thank you so much. You've been carrying my shows on your YouTube channel really
Right.
since we started at the beginning of the pandemic. So on behalf of Trish and myself, thank you for carrying Straight Talk, which is no longer Straight Talk, but now The Awakening World. And thank you, Trish, for making that happen. And Celestine, any thoughts about Marina before we watch a little video clip of Elizabeth April?
I felt she is extremely beautiful. She's honest in her heart. I sense deeply that she is aware that has human qualities, and then there's something else. And so I just really feel that from her, how she expresses herself. And I'm looking forward to hearing more from her. And I love hearing how she's sticking up for herself. So I felt a deep sense of awakening and love and joy. So,
Well, part of the fantasy that we have is connecting her when she comes out here, of course, during a tour, public events, and connecting her with special people in each geographic area. So, of course, right away, we talked about for the Bay Area, Marina and Celestine Star.
I would love to do something with her. She's just, and also there's, Valerie, Vivian.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and Deborah knows Vivian.
Yes.
Right.
But, there's such a special, the hybrids really have a task. First of all, to have people to believe what they're saying.
Mhm.
And, you know,
Right.
you have to feel it in your body to really make it come through. And she's really the real deal. You could tell if somebody's really the real
But
deal.
you know, Celestine, you really tuned into something. At 15, she kind of had this awakening, this Kundalini awakening, and said, "Oh my God, I'm not from here." And now she's going through the phase where she's honoring the human, the feeling, the groundedness. This is and so she's both. She is the mixture of those two things, and she will channel these high beings and also have very real human emotions. So this is where we're all heading to, I think, you know, this
Well, you know,
integration.
it sounds like, you know, when I do the galactic origin sessions and people realize, you know, I had 4 fingers and 2, you know, I was blue, I was a reptilian shape, you know, but then when you take them to the higher planes, then they realize they drop their embodiment of that they came to Earth and they come into their true nature. And then when you bring them back into their humanness, you know, there's that, you know, I understand that I had the primal universal codes, you know, so how do you, they're having to integrate. So yeah, but when somebody says hybrid to me, I I understand it as being an egg from a human and actually being born on a spaceship or, you know, born in a different way. Um, and
There's levels of that, I think. And I think actually we humans are actually hybrids. We're not originally from Earth, but a mixture of an evolving primate and a higher civilization.
I think there's a
Upgrading.
mixture for me. That's not everybody is that, but there are, you know, yeah. More to talk
John,
about on
I
that, Ellen.
John, I added you onto the gallery view here. Um, I wanted to give you a chance. Any thoughts that you want to offer about Marina before we listen to Elizabeth April?
Yes, I've heard a number of her interviews, and she knows a lot more than you would imagine a 21-year-old would know
Yeah.
on so many levels. And so there's a very special gift that she has, and I feel she truly is a hybrid.
Mhm. She is, and actually the next 2 nights, I mean, Saturday night and Sunday morning, we're going to show more clips of Marina talking about her experiences, lineage, DNA, and what her mission is. So
Alan, you did a beautiful job really delving into a lot of the deeper elements of her story. So thank you for that.
Yeah, good job, Alan.
well,
Good
thank
job.
you. You know, me and Scott, we're talent scouts. We go around, we see someone who lights up and said, we want to bring that out to the world. So that's our job.
That's a good way of putting it, Alan. That's a great way.
Right. Right.
Hey, I want to invite, our chat box has gotten quiet. So we've still got 65 people in the Zoom room. Let us know what you think. What's coming up for you? We are going to get to questions and answers next after we see this video clip of Elizabeth. And so we want to hear from you. What's standing out for you? What's new? What's interesting? What's intriguing? What are some of your thoughts and questions? So, and I want to acknowledge there's so many people in our chat room that I would love to put on the show. We've got wonderful Connie, Connie Baxter Marlowe, who earlier in the show when we were talking about how to raise the vibration, she has a process for that. And so maybe we'll bring Connie on to talk a little bit about that. Our beloved friend, the Mystic Abbot, Jerry, is with us. And so many of our friends that are regulars. So Ayada, Susan, Kent, Noel, Jody Sirota, who's going to lead our opening prayer and invocation, is with us. She's doing that tomorrow. So I just want to say thank you to everybody. There's a lot of people in this Zoom room, and I look at you on, and your cameras are on. I'm going to go to gallery view for a quick minute and look at all these beautiful people. And there's more. There's 2 pages. Omashar, who's going to play music for us tomorrow night. So anyway, welcome everybody. I'm glad you're with us, and we want to hear from you. So thank you. Okay. Alan's queuing up a video. I did a series of interviews with Elizabeth April. She wasn't able to join us live this weekend. She's been on several of my shows, and many of you may know her. If you don't, she's great. First of all, she's a sweetheart, and she's very loving, and she is highly, highly empathic and has been communicating and connecting with the Galactic Federation for quite some time. And then she kind of tunes in and brings down their downloads. So anyway, here's one clip of my interview with her, talking very specifically about government disclosure. And she says something quite similar to what we heard Whitley say earlier tonight. Go ahead and play it, Alan. Elizabeth, of course, we wanted to have you on this amazing weekend about making contact. And really, what's the update? And what's your perception about making contact? I know that you do it all the time on the inner plane and would love to hear about that. And anything you have to say about disclosure or integration?
Yeah, great question. So every month I host basically like a public call where I astral travel and remote view over to the Galactic Federation ships. It's called the Galactic Federation Summit. And I ask questions that humanity wants to know to just random members of the GFL, whoever kind of needs to speak up. So I used to do this all the time, not publicly, just myself. Now, just in January, so January 11th, I asked about disclosure. Actually, everyone was asking about this. When is disclosure going to happen? So of course, we want to ask the Galactic Federation of Light, who has many councils who deal with planet Earth and who deal with really big kind of life-changing things that Earth could potentially go through. And one of the biggest things is cosmic disclosure. So I forget which being I was talking to, but I asked the question, I said, what's going to take place? And they were on some sort of like Earth Committee or Earth Council. And they said, Elizabeth, do you want to see, because I'm clairvoyant, so I see everything. They're like, do you want to see the timeline of us making contact with humanity tomorrow? And I said, yes, show me what's going to happen. So here's what they showed me. They showed me kind of like a collective of like potentially thousands, if not hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of ships from the GFL, all coming to planet Earth all at the same time. So it's not just we're going to arrive at the White House. It was global. And that's really the only kind of global contact that could be made is at that capacity. And immediately, all the governments are getting out their nukes, they're getting out their weapons, they're getting out their explosives. There's fear rampage on all of the mass media, networks. And it feels like it's an invasion, and really it's meant to be peaceful contact. It's meant to be a huge awakening, So they showed me that visual, and I relayed that visual to the community who was watching that, who was joining me for that summit. And basically what the GFL said is, as much as we would love to come to planet Earth, as much as you in this community have been asking for it for such a long time, right now, the collective vibration just simply isn't high enough for contact in a peaceful capacity to be made. And by seeing that visual, I completely understood where they were at. And they also have they have beings, they have devices that look into like precognition, like look into future, right? So they can see many different timelines and all of the most probable timelines of them taking action and then the reaction and the different timelines that we hop into from that. And they said, it's just not plausible. And they said that the old world systems need to collapse a little bit further before contact at that capacity is made. So they were specifically talking about the religious systems and then some of the shadow government systems that are still at play, unfortunately, that need to collapse. Now, I will mention a little bit of good news. So contact is going to be for sure made. Disclosure is going to happen in our lifetime. As a matter of fact, it's already happening. I mean, it's very clear that UFOs, aliens, all of that is really being talked about more and more. They also reassured us that if we are looking for individual contact, we can ask for that, and individual contact will, without a doubt, be made to us. Could be in our dream state, could be in meditation, it could be just looking up at the sky. It doesn't have to be be seeing a UFO. That's not necessarily what contact looks like these days. As a matter of fact, that's more of a 3D version of contact. Because we're stepping into our multidimensional selves, contact and subsequently that DNA unlocking in us as hybrid beings, that can all happen in many different ways. So really keeping that in mind, that if you want disclosure, you can have it at an individual level, and that is totally possible. And so what's really exciting and the messages that they've brought through in the past couple of months is, for probably 2 years, I've been hearing from them that the white hats, I don't really know if I really like that term, but basically like the good guys in government and like kind of planted all around the world in these massive structures, they've been holding back. And it's been so frustrating for me to be kind of a conduit for their information, to say, why are they holding back? And they keep saying, it's not the right time. It's not the right time. And I think there was a lot of the power struggle that was taking place. And then they, of course, know what those timelines would look like once action is taken. So finally, it really kicked up like September of 2021, and then November of 2021, and then December of 2021. The white hats are finally taking action. Now, we're not going to see a whole lot of this at the front end of things. We're going to see certain people getting indicted, but that is like, you know, less than 5% of really what's taking place in the back end of things as far as like the government world sphere. So the white hats are actually finally moving forward. They're taking tons of action, and at the back end, a lot of things are collapsing. So this is what we're going to really see for 2022, is a lot of these old world systems, 3D systems collapsing. You know, like I mentioned before, the religious systems, the mass media systems, the political systems, the financial systems, I believe are all going to really collapse. To what extent, not totally sure, but 2022 is going to be still a year of polarity, still a year of collapse. We're not going to see 5D heaven on earth in 2022, unfortunately, but we're in the middle of the shift. We're getting there. And they really keep reassuring us that it's happening and that we need to kind of hold that space for the shift to take place.
Okay. Beautiful.
And by the way, John Martin just caught something interesting. He caught the little orb in her video. I interviewed her for over an hour. And while I was talking to her, about 5 or 6 times, I saw this little white guy kind of go down. And I pointed it out to her, not on camera, or I mean, not when we were recording. So thank you, John, for picking that up. And I brought it up to her, and she said, really? She wasn't even aware of it. So thank you. I'm going to get people's reactions in a moment, but while you have just seen her, I want to take people to her website, because I really want to encourage people, if you relate and like what she has to say, definitely join her membership site. She's just created a brand new membership site where she's transferred all of her footage, and she's very prolific. Like John is constantly creating video. Elizabeth April does a lot of podcasts, video podcasts, where she talks about what's going on, and she's really creating a powerful community. So you can join. There's a social club part of it. There's all of her webcasts, and it's really very, very reasonable. It's very inexpensive. She's got a free site, a $9.95 site, $9.95 a month, or a $19.95 a month site. And so it's all at ElizabethApril.com, ElizabethApril.com, and you can join free or at one of the other levels. So choose your plan, join Elizabeth, and let's support our friends. Let's support Whitley. Let's support Elizabeth. In a few minutes, we'll take a look at how we can support Celestine. This is all very, very important. So thank you.
So one of the great things she said there was, if you want contact, it is ours. Whitley's had it, Marina, April, Elizabeth, April, and a lot of people here know Jean and John, and Jody's always having contact. And of course, Celestine's had a lifetime. So this is not something we have to wait for. Making contact is happening now. It's up to us, like Celestine said, expanding out our heart and calling them in. So I just wanted to put that out there. And John, of course, he's as proof of his contact. So there you go. So
Trish,
Uh,
I know you and I have had Elizabeth on this show, on our Straight Talk show before. Anything that comes up for you seeing Elizabeth again?
Mm, I love her. Not only is she just a, but she's also just incredibly heart-centered and high vibe. Like she just vibrates at a very specifically, like, she has a very sweet tone, and I love her so much. I love with how she shares and how she shows up.
Beautiful, yeah. Um, Celestine, John, I'm going to add you also here. I don't know if you've had previous experiences with Elizabeth, but wanted
Oh,
to welcome your thoughts.
well, you know, you want to go first, John, or?
Sure, Celestine, thank you. She's a deep thinker and she's highly connected to higher levels of consciousness. And it's very obvious when she speaks that she has, a very unique point of view, and it needs to be heard. And I'm glad she has a venue. And thank you for sharing her work.
Great.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Celestine.
Okay. Yes, I love Elizabeth April. She's so beautiful, and I feel for her. It's like stepping out and you know, kind of channeling through the information that you telepathically get, or you know, teleporting yourself into the council room, which is what I've done a lot of and often. So I really appreciate the the messages that she gives. The one that she gave with you, Scott, was totally clear. It's very much the same. Some of the working from our grouping is the reintegration of humanity, and everything comes down from the source. So the ones that I work with, they don't come, they don't show up, they don't do these things unless they have permission from the source to work with us. And so if we give permission and we say, okay, we give permission and we're open and connecting to our own source self and opening, then they have that permission to step in. They did say they do not want a differentiation. That's their word for war. They will never do that. And they look at humanity as having, we don't even get along with ourselves, much less if the interstellar people step in. We do know that the secret governments or the deep state, they are planning to roll out an invasion so that they could be the heroes. And we know that uh, they don't need to, you know, the false narratives that they give us, again, makes us weary. And we say, are we really going to believe them? Even if they tell the truth, it's not in their nature. So I love what Elizabeth spoke about. It was very clear. And the timelines that she has seen, I have seen, they cannot step in until we get a little bit more unified as a species, as a humanity. Because if we're fighting among ourselves or we don't quite have the strength, then it makes it difficult for them to step in. But it will happen. It's happening in the background, you know, it's happening as it needs to, and it's happening for governments and such. So yeah, I love Elizabeth and all that she says. I totally agree.
Well, while I've got you here, Celestine, I want to kind of share your offerings because we are winding down. We'll be finishing up fairly soon. Um, so you've got this wonderful book also about the Galactic Earth Council. Um, and how, what are you currently offering and how can people best connect with you?
Yes, well, you can go to the galacticearthcouncil.com website, and not only do we have the book, the reintegration of Earthkin and Starkin, which gives the unfoldment of their experience with me, but also chapter 11, they give the history of the Earth, which you, Trish, might be interested in for the biblical sense of what you were talking about, and I really appreciate you stepping that in. But chapter 11 is an encoded transmission from the High Spiritual Council, and it gives you the history of the Earth from their standpoint and brings you up to the present moment. There's advanced Galactic Earth Council writings in there, and then there's other encoded transmissions. So
And
Um,
there's the website. It's
yeah,
galacticearthcouncil.com.
yeah. The store actually
galacticearthcouncil.com.
has images of starships. So if you go to the store, you can see, there you go. And there's a Stargate, which a real Stargate, which I have video and film.
Wow.
This is a galactic starship, the one on the bottom. There you go. So we're offering it now to help to support the Galactic Earth Council in our adventures and places we have to go and preparing for Skywatch and such.
And you do the sky, how often do you do sky watches?
We do them in the weather, when the weather's good, we'll start again in the spring. And I think I'm going to do a gathering online just to gather people's minds. I have 2 levels, one's advanced and one's is the beginners, open circle for people, because I teach during those times. We really go into depth on what to expect. And everybody says, where are you from? And it's really fun to go in circle, and they're from Venus and Mars and all over the place. And it's real fun. But then when the star people come out, then it gets, that connection. Again, the synapses starts working.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And stick around, everybody. We've got about 10 more minutes, and we're going to hear from Connie. And we're also going to close with some music, live music from John Martin. But I also wanted to take a moment to really encourage people, if you don't have Alan's book yet, you got to get it. Making Contact by Alan. And he's got wonderful segments in there from some of our favorite researchers. And you can get it. It's easy. It's right there on Amazon. And it's very inexpensive. And you can also Kindle it, audiobook it. Anything you want to mention about it, Alan?
It's a collection of essays by people I consider some of the best. Whitley Strieber has a chapter in there. Linda Moulton Howe. I got an unpublished manuscript from John Mack's archives, and he is really a person who really legitimized the whole alien contact. I have Nick Pope and Grant Cameron. So it's a collection of minds that go from the exterior, the hard nuts and bolts, to the interior consciousness. Carolyn Corey, Mary Rodwell. It's about 11 essays. George Norrie writes the intro. My story of my contact experiences in there. And it seems to be a primer. It's like, we're a unique group, but if you're the only one in your family, this is the book you want to give them to say, this is what I'm talking about, because it's a slow immersion into the phenomena. So it's like a textbook. And thank you. I love talking. I mean, people know I talk about this day and night, and it's something about it makes me come alive. I don't know. It's just the most exciting moment in human history, when we're about to meet the cosmic others and change the mindset of humanity. It's our turning point. And
tell it, brother. Tell it, brother Alan. Evangelical.
It's happening to us right here on the Zoom and everyone watching, and something magic is in the air. Just Whitley alone, what a testimony he is to.
Speaking of testimonies, you've got some really beautiful testimonials right now in the chat box. I'm going to read them. Joanne writes, Atira writes, it's a riveting book. Joanne writes, I've read it and given it to others. It's a remarkable synthesis. Thank you, Alan. It is the most exciting moment in human history. Jane writes, I love your book, Alan. Thank you for your contribution. So there you have it. Those are right off some of the testimonials from some of the people in our Zoom room right now.
And thank you, Scott, for showcasing that. But this is the beginning of a consciousness shift. And I think that's what we're all doing here. Celestine's dedicated her life, Whitney, John, Jody, John and Jean. We know there's more down the road. And that's why it's the most exciting time. And thank you for taking these next 3 days, today, tomorrow, and Sunday, to look at what Making Contact's about. So
absolutely. Please join us, everybody. I'm going to put the spotlight on Connie Baxter Marlowe. She's she's certainly an elder in Global Peace Tribe. She's been on our shows. And Connie, I so appreciate all the many things that you and your partner Andrew have contributed. And you've got something very specific in relationship to what we're working on tonight.
Well,
I speak to the Earthlings because it seems like the Galactic Federation is saying, hey, Earthlings, you need to do your work to get your vibration up so we can do this thing. And so we offer a toolkit for getting our vibration up. We've written a book called The Trust Frequency, 10 Assumptions for a New Paradigm, which means that we have to shift our understanding of the nature of the universe in order to get ourselves into that frequency. And I believe it's actually going beyond duality, okay, which is a huge leap. So we give some tools. We give a construct on the nature of the universe that resolves 6 of the major paradoxes that have kept us from operating according to our hearts. And so we also offer a course called the Dance of Souls, so that we apply this construct to our relationship with ourself, the universe, and others. So I just want to thank you for bringing me on and asking me to talk about our offerings, because it's so important for humanity right now to do that work. You know, you guys are all talking about that contact and the beauty of what's going to happen, but it's not going to happen until we get in that frequency. We call it the trust frequency. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Connie. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I
Beautiful.
think, again, that's what we're hearing. You know, we all are learning ways to raise our vibration and to have our own unique connection. And, you know, kind of on the bigger picture, I just want to remind everybody that we all are having our own unique archetypal journey, our own unique hero's journey into learning to love ourselves, learning to raise our vibration, and learning to remember who we truly are above and beyond the human body and the illusion of separation that we come into when we come into the earth plane and when we come into these bodies. And that's what the Awakening World, Global Peace Tribe, New Realities, you know, what we all are creating and doing together is to help us take hands, wake up together, and provide tools. I want to invite everybody to tomorrow's show. And if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, please, if you haven't registered yet, go to globalpeacetribe.com and register. One registration, and you get links to all of our shows all the way through April 1st. 3 shows every week, plus special events.
I just want to acknowledge you, Scott, that you are dedicating 3 days of your time and weeks of planning and development. We've been on the phone and chatting, and you're doing this every day. You did it for 90 weeks with Deborah. I salute you for your dedication, and thank you.
Trish calls me a machine. I'm not a machine, but I appreciate your appreciation. Thank you very much. Thank you. And look, this is it. I was born on Christmas Day. I grew up with a Messiah complex. I've always wanted to contribute to the world transformation, and this is it. This is our time. This is it. The next few years, everything is going to change, and we're going to change, and we all need to come together as best as we can. As I like to say, we are the ones we've been waiting for. This is the time we've been preparing for. And I want to acknowledge 2 of the beautiful way showers that recently passed. Thich Nhat Hanh and Clifford Mahoney. Both died within a couple of days of each other last week. And so tomorrow, for those of you who have registered as part of the Global Peace Tribe, and everybody in our Zoom room has, because that's how you got the link. So when you register, you get the links. You can come in early to our early Zoom room show tomorrow, where we're going to be honoring these 2 beautiful beings. My friend Isabelita Papa, who was in Plum Village when he passed, is going to be here talking about that experience. And then JJ and Desiree Hertok and Alan are going to be sharing their experiences of Clifford Mahoney, a beautiful, beautiful Indigenous elder who spoke frequently about the relationship between the Star People and Indigenous peoples and the Earth. So come and join us for a very special celebration of their lives. That's at 5:30 Pacific time, Saturday, and then we roll right in at 6 o'clock to our show. And tomorrow night, we've got some really amazing presenters. We're going to show a little bit more of the Elizabeth April and Marina Seren videos. And then we've got JJ and Desiree Hertok and Elizabeth Sartoris. She's so brilliant. And our dear friend Jody Sirota is going to do an invocation and music. We've got the amazing Cornflower playing music. We've got Omashar playing music. It's going to be a very full and beautiful experience. So join
Have Neil
us.
Gar doing some of his
Neil
rap.
Gar doing spoken word. Thank you for reminding me of that. That's right.
It is a really full show. It's like what you used to do Saturday Night Live. Now it's can't get enough Awakening World. So this is the next phase. So this was a kind of introduction. Now we go to the next level. Although this was very deep for me, this show. I mean,
oh, beautiful.
We're going to go deeper, perhaps.
And thank you, everybody. I'm seeing your comments coming into the chat box, and they mean a lot to me. Thank you very much. And, please share this out with people. Let people know about the Awakening World. We got to grow it. I mean, I love that we've got 65 people in the Zoom room, and I want it to be 100 and then 200. I want us to grow our community, and we grow it by all of you taking the time, directing people to the globalpeacetribe.com website or the Global Peace Tribe YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel, I put a lot of energy into that. And I create some of our best segments are there. You can see like the previous show I did with Celestine Star and Astarius Miraculi, and all of our previous shows, everything, every Sacred Sunday, every Straight Talk, all of the Saturday Night Live shows, and some of my favorite ones. I kind of pick out my favorite ones. They're all there on our YouTube channel, free of charge. So please turn people on to our show. In the beginning, there was John Martin, and it was good. And he is the Alpha and the Omega of tonight's show. We began with John, and we're going to conclude with John. And I want to invite people, as you listen to John's live music, to digest what you've heard tonight, to digest the wisdom of Celestine and Whitley and everything you've heard tonight. Let's digest this and maybe make a new commitment to what we want to do to raise our vibration, to connect. Because what we're hearing over and over is that we can go out and connect. So, John, thank you for being the Alpha and Omega of tonight's show.
Thank you, Scott. And what I would say to everyone is, if you really want to make contact, project what you love into the universe. As soon as I did that, these beautiful energies started coming to me, and they've been there ever since. And this is a piece that kind of just came to me, and it's for those that have crossed the veil and for those that are still here. I don't really have a name for it, but it's just a feeling.
Ah, thank you so much, John. Thank you
It's a
very much.
pleasure. Thank you.
I'm going to go to gallery view so we can see all of our friends that have turned their cameras on, and maybe some of you can turn your cameras on if you wish. And this is just a little sampling of our beautiful global peace tribe. And each and every one of you are equally important. We are all imaginal cells finding each other, connecting, and together we are creating the butterfly that's growing out of the dying caterpillar. We are creating the new paradigm. We are awakening together. Thank you, each and every one of you, for who you are in this world. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow night. Take care.
Spread the contact. It's us. It's us we've been waiting for. Thank you, everybody, for